Hello everyone and welcome to today's Magic webinar. This month's topic is contributions. I'm Diane Clem, AMS Support Representative. Your usual announcer, Mark Werber, is vacationing in a tropical paradise. I'm joined today by our fellow excellent trainer, Frank Rittersdorf.
Hey everyone, that beach sure looks good.
That looks nice, huh?
Mark's probably having a blast.
Yeah, we'll get him when he comes back. As always, we're coming to you live from Simi Valley, California. It takes a talented staff to bring these webinars to you each month. From left to right, you see Sabrina Steffen, our marketing coordinator, Mark Boatman, our recording technician, and Mark Werber, who did actually make a contribution to this webinar. And then on the right, you see myself and Frank.
And also remember, Rapattoni version Magic is still Magic 10. 10.1.06 we're up to now. Number of enhancements, number of great ways to make your magic work the most efficiently as possible. If you have not upgraded yet, give us a call, get up there. And let's move on to our agenda. Diane?
Thanks, Frank. Our agenda today is contributions. We are going to define for you what are contributions, what are we talking about. We'll look at the setup in Magic, and we'll show you how to record contributions. Then we'll show you a couple of reports and exports available to help you manage contributions in Magic. First on our agenda is, what are we talking about? What are contributions? Contributions are a monetary gift to support a common interest. For instance, you might want to support political lobbies that affect real estate, such as RPAC, or even sponsor courses or events, or help to fund community projects or charities.
That's a great definition.
Isn't that awesome?
Everything in Magic, we always have to start with a setup. You gotta set it up before you can run it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the setup for the contribution, and we're gonna do that in the charge code. So let's go to Magic, yeah. So once you're in Magic, we're gonna go to Managers, Accounting, Billing Processes, Billing Setup, and the Charge Code table. Now I know many of you might not be able to go here, but you can definitely advise your accountant how to go ahead and do this if they don't already know. We're going to go ahead and go to our pre-created RPAC charge code, which is 2013R for RPAC. Let's go ahead and take a look at the detail. When you're in the charge code information form, on the right or on the left-hand side, everything is pretty much the same as any other charge code. Just make sure that you have the billing year to your current billing year. It's really the bottom right that makes all the changes for the contributions or for an RPAC. First thing is, when you check the accumulate contribution history and enter a contribution category, which you can select inside the contribution category table, and you can create anything in here that's specific to your association. Once you do that, it makes this charge code a voluntary charge code. So when they look at IMS, they can either pay or not pay. Now there's a couple of different ways you can show that on IMS, and that is derived from the memo charge box. So if you have the memo charge box checked, it's going to allow the member to modify the amount that they're going to pay for this voluntary charge. So they can go in there and change it to 0, they can go in there and change it to a larger amount, to a lesser amount, and so forth. But if you uncheck the memo charge, the charge is still a voluntary charge. It's just either they can check it to pay or uncheck it to not pay. If they do decide to pay, that's the amount that you put in. In this case for us, it's $49. But they don't have to pay that $49. They just can't pay anything else if they're going to pay it. So it's either to pay or unpay or not pay. And we'll check that. Okay. And let's escape. Now that's the beginning, that's the core of setting up the contribution, but there's one other thing we need to do. We need to go into Accounting, Billing Sources, Billing Type Charges. We need to assign that charge code to the different bill types, similar to what you do in your regular billing. Go into Members and type in your billing group. And what you're going to do is you're going to assign which bill types, whether it be a broker or a realtor, even appraiser, that will actually can contribute to your common fund. And so here we have entered our 2013R for RPAC in for our DRs. Now I think I'd like to show you at the bottom regarding the RPAC contribution charge code is that we have some recommended amounts. We have a minimum amount as well as a maximum amount. And Magic is really quite smart when it comes to handling this, because if you have the two ranges there and the member comes in, goes into IMS and wants to pay that, decides to want to pay this, what they're going to see is if they paid an amount that's in between the minimum and the maximum, so in this case say $75, the member logs into IMS, Magic and IMS are going to show them $75 because it's what they paid and it's in between the minimum and the maximum. If they happen to pay, let's say $20, and they go in to log into IMS, it's going to show them the $49. It's going to show them the minimum. If they paid over the $100, let's say $150, it's actually going to show them the $100 for the maximum. So if they pay in between the minimum maximum, it's going to show what they paid last year, the prior year. If they paid less than the minimum, it's going to show the minimum. If they pay more than the maximum, it's going to show the maximum. So it's a nice, smart little way to have the show for your members. Let's go ahead and review the setup. So we went to the setup and we talked about the contribution charge code setup. And we talked about the contribution category, selecting that. And again, you can create whatever category you like. I've seen a number of charities in here and so forth. You also need to go in and either check the memo charge or to make it to where they can pay. They can decide if they want to pay or not pay, or if they even want to modify the amount. And again, having that memo charge will allow them to modify the amount that they're paying. We also talked about assigning the contributions to the specific bill types. And also, we talked about the smart little way that IMS and Magic uses the suggested or recommended amounts. Again, if they pay in between the minimum and the maximum the prior year, it's going to show what they paid, which they'll more likely want to pay again this year.
Thanks, Frank. Now let's talk about recording contributions in Magic. In Magic, there are two ways you can record contributions. The first is by creating an invoice and posting a cash receipt to that invoice. The member comes in with a check, he wants to give that check to you. You create an invoice, post a cash receipt to it, and once the member history is updated, you'll see that activity in the member's contribution history. This is done through the accounting module. What we want to pay special attention to today is how to create a contribution manually using the contributions form. So Frank's going to take us to Magic, and we're going to go to Managers, Contributions, and the Contributions form. This form is broken into two parts. The top portion is going to give you basic member information, such as their name and their office information. And if you use F9 to go down into the bottom part of the form, this is where you can manually record any contributions they've made. You'll see it's automatically in modify mode. So if you use F4, you can create a new line where you can then enter in the new updated contribution information. Select the charge code they're making the contribution for, the amount of the contribution, record the date of the payment they made, the type of payment they made, and any pertinent information such as the check number. So as you can see, it's really simple to record this information. Once it's saved here, it will automatically update their contribution history. And I want to point out there's also another feature in Magic in this contributions form, and that is the pledges feature. If you click on that button, you can locate a member, and in the bottom portion of the form, Magic will show you whether they've made a promise to make a contribution. And not only that, it'll also show you how much they've actually made good on that promise. So if that member, whether they've made one contribution or 5, Magic is going to show you the total amount that you have received for that charge code from that member who made a promise to pay. And just like it says here in the comments section, this member was good for it.
Yes, he was. Again, so Magic automatically, as they make the contributions, automatically does the math and adds it in here.
That's absolutely right. So in Magic, you can also look at a member's contribution history by going to their member record. You can click on that contribution button and then history, and you can see a list of all of the contribution activity that's been made. So whether it was recorded by posting an invoice or by manually creating a contribution, you're going to see that activity here and it's going to be in that member's contribution history.
And again, if they made the transaction, you do need to update history before it shows here.
Right, if they do it through the accounting module.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Let's review.
Let's review. 2 ways to record contributions in Magic are by creating invoices and posting a cash receipt. You have to run member history update in order to see these kinds of transactions in contribution history. The other way is by using the contributions form. Contributions form is divided into 2 sections, the members section, which provides basic information about the member, and then the contribution section where you can add specific information to do with contributions that were not made to your association but were made someplace else. And you also can take a look at pledges that the members have made toward their contributions. All right, let's look at reports.
Yes, reports. Now you've put all the data in there. How can we get that data into a nice format where we can really understand it? And that's, of course, through reports. So let's take a look at Magic. And we're going to go to Managers, Contributions, and Reports. As you can see, there's a number of reports that you could use. We're going to try to throw you 3 reports that we feel like are very common with our customers that we get calls on. And the first thing is going to be Contribution Detail Report. And up at the top, of course, you can put in your sort options, which you have a number of options, as well as ID, whether it be Nerds ID or Member ID and so forth. You have to put your bill group. A lot of the common things that you're going to need to do for reports. You can do a contribution type, so whether that's personal or corporate. We're leaving it blank for everything. If you're using the contribution source field, you can, fill in that. As well as you can put the different charge codes. In our case, we're going to do 2013R. And you can actually do date range. You can leave it wide open, especially if you're just using that charge code for a specific period of time. Or you can kind of narrow down the parameters to maybe, let's say, the year to the current date. Let's go ahead and create that report. Well, one other thing, you can actually just put a report description for that report as well. Let's go ahead and create that. And look at that, the report's already made.
Just like Magic, yep.
The powers of the webinar. Okay, so let's take a look. What are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at the ID of the member and the member name. We're looking at the charge code and the charge code description. I think we put 2013R. Also, if it's been a transaction, transacted contribution, you would see the invoice number and receipt number that's associated with that transaction. If you entered it into the contribution form, you would not see that, of course. But either way, you will see a contribution date, contribution type, and if it's a transaction, you would see, actually see the check number, whether it's a transaction or not, as long as you enter that into that field. In the case of Andrew Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, that's one heck of a name, he has made 2 different contributions, separate contributions, and it will divide those out and then total under his name. And it will actually let you know how many records you have there, so that's kind of cool as well. At the very bottom, we're going to have, they have the total records and how many members contributed. If you can see here, we got really excited. We thought we were going to break some records with $1 million contribution.
I know.
But then it must have been a clerical error because they took it back.
Too bad.
Let's go back and look at Magic. Let's look at another report that we have here. This one is called the Contribution History Report. What this report will do is give the opportunity to take a look at all your members and their contributions from the last 6 years. So again, you have all your basic information. You can do your different contribution categories, whether it be current or corporate or personal. Sources, your current year. You can make it to where you're showing everybody whether they contributed or not. Or you can do $1 and just show who has contributed this year. You can link this up to 1 year, to the current year, but we're going to open it up to all 6 years in the past 6 years. And again, you also can put a description in there as well. Let's create that report. Oh, look at that, contribution history report. So quick, so fast. So the other thing we have here is we have the members, as well as their office and phone numbers. So if it's something that you want to give them a call, you notice, let's say you left that as 0 and the date range there. And so it's showing up everybody that has not, everybody, whether contributed or hasn't contributed. And so if you notice they contributed in the prior 5 years, maybe you give them a call and say, hey, I noticed you contributed before. Are you considered contributing this year? So it's a great little tool you've got there. And again, so you're looking at the status of the category as well as the last 6 years. At the bottom, it does show the totals. So for our association, looks like it's a big year for $11,000, almost $12,000 for the year. And of course, the economy was bad the last few years.
Times were lean, yes.
I think the economy's picking up, according to this. Anyway, let's take a look at another report. We also look at the committee contributors report. As you all know, most members that are in the committees are the ones that are the most involved, the most willing to help and help out the association, so they're most willing to contribute on a lot of cases. So this is a way to see who's all your committee members and if they've contributed or not. So again, you've got your different dates, probably the current year. You got your committee ID, you can just throw all of them in there. If you just want to look for board of directors, that's great as well. Types, again, category, the year. You can narrow down your contribution amount, and again, you can even have a nice little description there. Let's go ahead and click at that report. So it's very similar to the contribution history report, except for these are only committee members. In this case, this would be really good to have that left out to 0, so you see all the committee members. And if there's a 0 amount for 2013, you just give them a call and say, hey, I see you're really active in our association. How about contributing? So this is what you can see here as well as the last 5 years. We don't have a lot going for our committee members. We need to really get on them. But they've done really well, I guess. The 3 that have contributed, they've contributed a good amount. Let's review. So we talked about the reports. We talked about the contribution detail report, which breaks down the specifics of each contribution transaction, whether it be a date, if there's an invoice or receipt used, etc. We also have the contribution history report, which shows who has contributed in the last 6 years, as well as committee contributors report, which committee members have contributed in the last 6 years. And you can sort by different committees or contribution category, as well as you can make to see who hasn't contributed this year, but might have contributed in the years past. Let's jump to exports.
Yes, let's. So in case those reports aren't enough for you to help you to manage your contributions in Magic, we also have exports available. Exports are a way to communicate with members to do with contributions by creating a file. So we're going to go to the Merge module. We're going to click on Merge and Contributions. And the first thing we're going to look at is the non-contributor merge. In this case, we may want to reach out to people who have not contributed yet this year. The first portion of this form you're going to fill out as usual with the merge by selecting your billing group and your usual member type information. Where you're going to pay special attention is going to be your contribution category. You want to make sure you select the category you want the information for. You can leave it open to select all. And also your contribution year. You want to make that the current year. And then if you want to capture any member, whether they've made a contribution or not, you leave previous year amount 0. And if you only want to capture members who have contributed this in the past, you enter a value in there, and then you'll be able to see people who have contributed in the past who have not contributed yet this year. Click Continue, and you can export this, create a file, which you can then pull into Excel or Word, and you can reach out to the members who have not contributed to see if you can get a little more activity from them. The next merge we're going to look at under contributions is going to be the pledge merge. The pledge merge is very similar. You're going to enter your basic merge criteria. In this case, you're going to select specific charge codes that you want to look at. You remember when we entered pledges into that contributions form, we specified charge codes they pledged for. So in this case, you can enter those specific charge codes, and then you can enter the pledge date range. And you can run this merge one of basically 3 ways. You can look at people who have unpaid and paid pledges, or you can look at only those who have not made good on their pledges, or only those who have made good on those pledges. You can send out thank yous or where are your money requests, that kind of thing. So click continue, and again you'll create a file which you can pull into Excel or Word, and you can reach out to your membership that way. Very handy tools. The next exports that we have available, a lot of you might not be aware of. Under the exports module, we have two types that are available, the Keep in Touch export and also the Vocus export. These are marketing tools, and Magic will create a file in the proper format to be compatible with either of these tools. If you're interested in setting these up, give our support team a call and we can help you with that. Let's review. Magic has exports available for contributions. These would include merges such as the non-contributors merge and the pledge paid merge. You can find people who have pledged money and haven't paid, or thank people who have paid, or you can find people who contributed last year but haven't contributed this year. We also have other exports available for you to use if you happen to use Keep in Touch or Vocus marketing software. You can give our support team a call and we can help you set that up.
Let's summarize. Well, we first started out with what are contributions? It's a monetary gift for a common interest, whether it's a political or event or charity fund. We also talked about setup, how we go into the charge code and set that up towards it is a voluntary charge, as well as make it to where they can modify the payments. Recording contributions and pledges. You can do that manually in a contributions form or process it through the transactions, as well as different reports. You can look at contribution detail history report, as well as the committee contributors report. We also had a number of different exports where you can do the non-contributor merge, as well as the pledges merge, or import into those marketing programs if you're using those. Our Magic has made those compatible. And now it is time for our question and answer time.
Give us a minute while we take a look at the questions you've been asking.
So I have a question here. Can two transmittals, dues and contributions, be run and transmitted on the same day? If I understand that question correctly, is yes, it can be. You actually can do one transmittal and include dues and contributions on the same transmittal. Or you could do it two separate transmittals, one for dues and one for contributions, all in the same day.
That's right. You can collect the same file of financial data and you can select whether or not you make it dues or contributions. We could show them that in Magic. You want to show them that?
Sure.
Managers and data exchange. Send transmittals. And financial, we can select a batch we've already created. Actually, probably if we run the report, we can see whether.
Okay.
There. Now here we can tell Magic whether we want to include dues, contributions, or both.
You can even tell it if you want to include personal or just corporate or both. I think the majority of our customers are just doing both and both, but you have those options. And of course, you create your own date parameters of what transactions you want to send. Good question.
All right. So we're looking for other questions out there.
Oh.
And as always, if you have questions regarding any of our webinars, you can contact the support team and we can answer any of your questions over the phone. Anyone that answers can give you expert advice on these topics.
Oh, here's another question. Can I get this webinar in hard copy?
We get asked that question every single month. We love that question. We can't provide hard copy of this webinar for you, but you can review it over and over again on the Magic website, and we will tell you how to do that in just a few moments.
So here's another question. For a manual contribution, how do you reconcile?
Interesting question. Well, you won't actually be reconciling to any kind of cash receipts because it's not money you've collected. It is just contribution history that you're recording. in case you have to report that. So you're not creating cash receipts in the contribution form, you're just creating contribution history.
I think a lot of times the scenario is that the member actually contributes right directly to the state in a lot of cases.
Yep.
But since they are within the local board, your local board, you want to log that transaction in your database, and that's what the contribution form is
record
for.
that history, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so it looks like we're good with the questions. Now it's time for Rapattoni Wrap Up.
To view past and future webinars and to register for upcoming webinars, you can visit our website at www.rapattoni.com. Click on the word support, magic, and webinars and training videos. And as we mentioned earlier, you can view any past webinars that we've put on, and you can also register for future webinars. You also can look at our support articles by visiting the same website, rapattoni.com, and clicking on support, magic, and magic resource articles. There are a variety of articles available to get you the help you need.
Also, our next Magic webinar will be held on April 24th, 2013. We are going to start on inventory, and this is the first of probably a series of webinars regarding inventory because it's such a robust module. And so in these presentations, we will cover the setup, maintenance, and reporting in the inventory module. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks for joining us.